Thanks a lot, Paul. Thank you very much for coming and visiting us this evening. We're getting the sound system ramped up for when people get a chance to give input. We'll have the microphone ready for that. Can you hear me okay in the back?
Yeah.
All right, if I start to trail off for any reason, which I'm prone to do toward the end of the day at times, feel free to call me on it and I will raise my voice. All right. So we've been through the introductions. I was going to start off by giving you a little overview of the Port of San Diego because a lot of people who you might have been down on the Tidelands or visited the waterfront before, maybe don't know as much about the Port of San Diego and why it is that the port's operating the rest of the waterfront and things like that. So I'll run through that part of our business operation and what our mission is as the port a little bit. Talk about the current situation as it exists down on the waterfront right now. What's happening in terms of current things that have happened in the past, in terms of developments that have, since we've started up our ordinance that are in place today, and then some events and so forth that are happening now. The things basically that are drawing a whole lot more people down to the waterfront and to enjoy it. A little bit about the research and benchmarking we've done so far regarding our ordinances as they relate to commercial activities, vending and entertainment on the Tidelands. And then what the ordinances should address. From our staff standpoint, we said, okay, we want to make sure that when we do go through these ordinances and make any necessary rewrites to them, that we look at this, and this, and start keeping that in mind, which I'm sure you have as soon as you heard about this meeting. What should our ordinances talk about? What is it that we need to regulate or not regulate on the waterfront relating to these activities? All right, and then your questions and input, the key part of this evening is to hear from you about your observations about how we can manage things in a way down on the Port of San Diego Tidelands on our waterfront that are fair and equitable for everybody, that are constitutionally correct, and certainly a way that balances all of our activities there. As we all know, the waterfront is a very popular place, so a lot of people come down there to enjoy it, which we at the Port are very, very happy about. But we need also, as the Port of San Diego, as part of our job, to make sure that people are safe and well cared for down there, and that the businesses and all the activities that occur down there, are operating in that same manner. All right, and then we'll talk about, after you've had a chance, everybody's had a chance to give their input and ask any questions that they have, to tell you what the next steps that we currently have scheduled are. So, any questions about what we're doing tonight? All right, excellent. Then I'll launch into the rest of this brief presentation about the port. I'm not sure if we can work the lights a little bit better and show. I'd like you to be able to see this map a little bit better. The rest of you probably live through. So this is kind of a stylized map of San Diego Bay that shows all those lands that are highlighted in the darker blue and grayish-brown color there are the Port of San Diego's jurisdiction. We were created back in 1963 by the state of California to manage the Tidelands of San Diego Bay, which is basically everything to the water side of the mean low water line of like 1855. And basically what that means today is a lot of Harbor Drive is pretty much the boundary for where the Port Tidelands exist, but there are a lot of what we're considering to be man-made boundaries are those boundaries that the Port of San Diego has jurisdiction of. Now, some of these areas where the city of San Diego and the other 5 member cities along the bay that you see there, Coronado, National City, Chula Vista, and Imperial Beach are, we've got some shared jurisdiction on some things, but when it comes to the particular ordinances that we are talking about tonight, most of that is under the Port of San Diego's jurisdiction, under ordinances that we've written at the port. Okay? So our job at the port is, again, to balance this waterfront that we're responsible for in a balanced manner, balance these uses. We have, for example, a total of 150 direct tenants and about 450 subtenants of those direct tenants on the waterfront who pay rent to the Port of San Diego. That's where our income comes from. We don't derive our income from tax dollars like most, I should say most, but a lot of government agencies do. We take our income direct from our operations there. So we operate the land, we manage the land there where we have tenants. We also have 2 maritime cargo terminals and 2 cruise ship terminals along the waterfront of San Diego Bay that we're responsible for. So we bring in also fees from what those cruise and cargo terminals are for the users, the cargo that comes through, and so forth. So that's how we operate in terms of income at the port. Now we turn around and take that income and use it on a variety of things. A lot of it's infrastructure projects along the waterfront. Everybody know about the North Embarcadero preliminary plan in the first phase there is getting ready to happen. We've got a $28 million project on the area of the North Embarcadero between Navy Pier and B Street. So there's a big infrastructure project going to get ready to go down there with a widening of the promenade, yay, for a lot more public access and public art and landscaping and so forth. So that's where the port does spends a measure of its money. We also provide a number of services. The San Diego Harbor Police Department, which are prominent along the port tidelands and in the water on boats, are funded by the Port of San Diego. Public art program and a whole lot of other community services that we do. So that's who we are as an agency. And again, our responsibility is this bay and this waterfront. So a little bit about the current situation, kind of a little history of what's happened, particularly in the, with emphasis on the downtown area, in the port tidelands area especially. In the not too distant past, we had the convention center expansion in 2001. It expanded to nearly twice its size, drawing a lot more conventioners down. For the businesses that are down in the bayfront, that's a particularly nice thing to have happened. Hotel developments at the Hyatt and the Hilton in 03 and 09. Of course, Petco Park and the USS Midway graced the waterfront and the near waterfront in 2004. Midway draws almost 1 million visitors a year. So it's a lot more people come down to that part of San Diego Bay that used to come down. In addition to the Maritime Museum, Broadway Pavilion, which was opened in December of 2010. And since, in the last 15 years, about 40,000 residential units have been built downtown. A lot more people. Do I need to say it even more? That a lot of people are now coming down to downtown for a lot of reasons. And, everywhere from the north through down to the south, Embarcadero through Seaport Village. It's amazing how much growth has happened in our downtown area. In the future, again, we've got that North Embarcadero Phase 1, Lane Field, the area where the parking lot is right now, is slated for development by a private developer over there with a major setback park. Rocco Park, has everybody heard of Rocco Park yet? I know Seaport Village has, at the corner of Pacific Highway and Harbor Drive, a new 3.3 acre park that's going into construction there. We're actually doing the groundbreaking in 5 days, October 3rd, and you're all welcome to come down to that, to Rocco Park. Old Police Headquarters in Seaport Village, we're looking at a major redevelopment there in the not too distant future. We don't have an exact timeline on that yet, but we're looking at, again, more people, more business in the waterfront. And then the County Administration Center across the street from the Tidelands, across Harbor Drive, is redeveloping its area. They're going to tear down their public services building and put about 7 acres of parkland on both sides there. So there's a lot more parkland actually coming down too. It's going to draw people down to recreate on the waterfront and near the waterfront. So what I would ask that you please hold any questions that you have till the end. I'll try and work through this, and by all means we'll try and answer anything everybody's got. Also, we're getting more special events coming to downtown. We at the Port of San Diego are in the process now of developing a waterfront activation program that brings more people and events and activities down to the San Diego Bay Tidelands. So through events, in fact, this weekend, October 1st, if you haven't heard of it, we're doing a Fall for the Arts event down in Broadway Pavilion. So this is a shameless promotion of that event. And everybody, that's a public free event for all the art and cultural offerings. We've got almost 60 organizations who have different types of artistic offerings coming down and doing demonstrations, workshops, exhibits, and all kinds of fun things down at Broadway Pavilion, down at Broadway Pier. So, all right, shameless promotions over. Sail races, we've got America's Cup World Series. We've had RC-44 sail races out at Broadway down there. The Festival of Sail, which is a wonderful event that the San Diego Maritime Museum operates. We've got whale days every January now. It's bringing thousands of people down to Broadway Pavilion. A lot of marathons and triathlons. Fleet Week. We've had Red Bull Air Race has been here before. July 4th draws lots of people down to the waterfront. Whale days, parades. A lot of forthcoming activations. So again, I don't mean to beat it to death, but it's suffice it to say things have changed down on our waterfront over the course of the years. Also, the current situation, I want to give you some, kind of facts and figures and things that we've heard at the port about where we are in terms of entertainer activities and the sales and vending. Commercial sales, first of all, are prohibited without a valid permit from the Port of San Diego. We'll talk about the ordinances here shortly. The Port of San Diego does have an agreement with Quality Coast Incorporated to operate a carton kiosk, a vendor program down on the waterfront. We have had complaints from the public regarding blocking of walkways by different activities that are down placed on the waterfront. We've had concerns from vendors and entertainers regarding aggressive behavior and usage of space and who has a right to what. We've had complaints from our tenants regarding vendors selling nearby. We have tenants who, again, are paying percentage rents and minimum type of rents to the Port of San Diego for the ability to be able to operate the facilities that they have on the waterfront. And they're literally competing with people who are selling things down there who are not paying any rent. And we have complaints about vendors and entertainers damaging public and tenant property, such as our park areas, and blocking the thoroughfares. And we've had noise complaints related to vendor and entertainment activity. So these are some of the things. Some of them are more concentrated than others. Some have been a little more emotional than others. But this is kind of the sum total of things that we've had, an aggregate of the types of things we've heard about behavior on the waterfront. Now, here's the existing ordinances that we have. Keep in mind that these ordinances, as you can see, are sections 8.2, 8.04, and 8.05 of the Port District Code, and that's the set of, we've got this massive code that's all of the ordinances that say how we're going to operate things on the waterfront. Most of these were originally written in the late 1980s and early 1990s. They've been updated periodically with very small updates. I'll give you an example. That 8.02 regulates activities in the parks. The last time it got updated was in 2008. We said, okay, no smoking in the parks. So it's been real minor, kind of concentrated changes that have occurred to these ordinances. That 8.02 is our parks ordinance, by the way, and it's the one that delineates what parkland is on the Port of San Diego. And it's got some information in there, primarily aimed at entertainment activities there. And what that information is essentially, don't juggle chainsaws and do the types of things that, are unsafe for the public. It kind of regulates the types of activity that can happen back there to ensure that the public is kept safe, that walkways, again, and public thoroughfares aren't blocked. So it's some basic guidelines and hopefully logical stuff for most people that we count on in that particular ordinance. But most of it's actually about park permitting and delineating where our parks are. There is some information there that, again, regulates entertainers. 8.04 regulates nonprofit organizations selling commercial merchandise. And essentially what that particular one says is, if you are selling merchandise as a nonprofit, then that merchandise needs to be messaged inextricably with the message of your nonprofit organization. So for an example, we have, if I may, we have t-shirt vendors who are down on a number of places on the waterfront. So the t-shirts that they have are required to have, because they are an environmental-based organization, that particular messaging on those t-shirts needs to have that type of environmental messages, whether it's relating to saving wildlife or maintaining the bay clean, all those types of things. So they can't have a shirt that just says "Welcome to San Diego" on it, for example, and doesn't have that type of environmental message on it. It needs to be, again, inextricably tied to the mission of that particular nonprofit. Okay, so that's what that 8.04 says. It talks about the nonprofit types of sales and merchandising that we have on the waterfront. And then 8.05 is more of a catch-all one that basically says you are required to have a court-issued permit for conducting business or personal activities or performing or entertaining on the Tidelands. Now, we have not been, as you see, enforcing that particular, especially where the entertainer permits are concerned. We have not been issuing entertainer permits. We had done that through our Harbor Police Department. There's been some changes of law lately that relate to that. So we're still, trying to get our arms around that. What a public agency is allowed to do, where type of free expression, First Amendment protected activity is concerned, is it's allowed to regulate what's called time, place, and manner. Okay. So what that means is, the regulation that can occur for that type of free expression. We are, as a public agency, can say, okay, you can't be in the middle of walkways doing this. You can't be overly loud, causing any kind of a nuisance to anybody else. The basic things that regulate not the message that comes out, or not, the type of way that somebody says it or plays it or does it, but, to the extent that they impact other people, through primarily public safety, but it could be in other ways as well. So we clear on that part too. All right, so we're through the ordinances now. We do have copies of those. You're free to take those. What I didn't want to do was walk through those ordinances line by line. Because first of all, it'd be a great insomnia cure for a number of you. But also, we're looking at, kind of taking the slate and saying, okay, we're open here for suggestions on how we should do this on our waterfront. Okay. So some of the research and benchmarks we've done, we at the Port have looked at the way that a number of public facilities have been operated in terms of entertainment and vendor type of activities. So Balboa Park has a program of vendors and entertainment. Seattle, Washington, San Francisco, Santa Monica, and Los Angeles have been the places we've done our research and benchmarking off of. So, every one of them based on, again, existing law and the particular, lay of the land of the place where they are. A place like Santa Monica is somewhat like ours. They've got a nice big pier and a lot of open public space along the waterfront. We looked at them too and said, okay, how do they work this? And are there ways that we should benchmark, copy off of them? Does it make sense? Okay, so we've done a little bit of homework so far. Again, the focus of this, our reason for coming and having everybody in, is to hear from you what your issues or concerns are, and again, any questions you have, and what we should address with our ordinances. Our staff has put our heads together and said, look, from our standpoint, this is what we want our ordinance to address. First of all, we want to address the need for an active, vibrant, and safe waterfront, a place where people want to come down and visit, enjoy all the activities that are available down there, but in a manner that keeps everybody safe and having a good time. The need for accessible thoroughfares through the waterfront, be it for either fire lanes or just general public safety for the different types of uses that are down there, be it somebody on wheels, skates, on foot, all those types of things, to be able to make sure we've got safe thoroughfares. How we allot space in a fair and equitable manner, because again, waterfront real estate isn't something you can build more of. You can dredge and try and make islands these days, but that's not a very easy thing to do. So we're kind of stuck with the amount that we have. So given that it's a finite resource, we want to make sure that we use it in the wisest way possible, and that means there's probably more demand for it than there is supply, especially when we're talking about the downtown area. So how do we allot that in a fair manner for everybody? And then again, the need for clear definitions and requirements regulating the vending and entertainment activities, so everybody understands, what's allowed and what's not. Okay. So that's from our staff standpoint where we are. Now's the time when we want to get your questions and input. And this is kind of our starter questions here, but this is by no means the exhaustive list. If there's anything that comes to mind that you feel we need to hear as we move forward and work on these ordinances, what should be addressed in the ordinances regulating vending and entertainment activities? The time, place, and manner I talked about before. What are your specific concerns, and what questions do you have for us? So that's kind of our simple start. The way we're going to do this, I'm going to turn it over to Paul, and she's going to give you the ground rules for how we'll take input and questions. And with that, please welcome Paul back.
All right, thank you, Jim. And we have a couple things we'd like to ask you first. If you have an empty chair beside you, could you raise your hand? Right, Sophie? And just that's to help us so that if some more folks come in, they know where to direct them to some empty seats. And another item is, does anybody need a translator? We have some services available to help with that. So if anybody needs some help with translation, if you could let us know, or we'd be able to help you through that. All right. So with regard to some just general meeting ground rules, we'd like to cover some of those with you first. One of them is a pretty standard one. One person speaks at a time. Please don't interrupt while someone else is speaking. Christine Love, she's going to be my microphone holder, so she'll come around as we call on, as people speak throughout the audience, she'll be the one who will come to you and she'll hold the microphone for you. Each person, please express your own views, and rather than speaking for others, keep that in mind. So everybody here will have a chance to speak your mind and what your opinion is. Along with that, keeping in mind that we have a lot of folks here, is giving everyone a fair chance to speak. So along the line of, as people are talking, be aware there's probably a lot of folks here who want to make sure that their comments are heard. And everyone needs to be heard. We're going to try to have everyone who wants to be heard first at least once. And then if you have more to say, we'll come back around. So it's kind of like, okay, everybody, we'll hear what you have to say. Okay, there's more, then we'll come back. So that's kind of the order with which we'll go through the group. Trying to keep the criticizing down of each other and trying to have a cordial discussion as we go through this. The discussions are about input to the ordinance. We really want to hear what are your questions, what are your thoughts, what are things to consider as we go through this. So with that said, we're going to start to get into the feedback. And so I think what we'll do here is to try to keep my sanity of working through it. Sophie.
Someone wanted me to say in Spanish what the rules are.
Oh, okay.
I'm looking to see if we need an interpreter. I have several people here that have started with English.
Bueno, para la gente que no habla inglés, ahorita es cuando pueden ustedes preguntar las cosas que quieren preguntar.
Entertainers, and we also have a lot of our own tenants and some of our subtenants here today. So there's a pretty good mix of all of you. So I'm gonna try to go by the first person I see with their hand raised, and I know the gentleman with the hat. I'm gonna walk towards you, and I'm gonna hold on to this just so I don't lose it.
Well, let me first of all thank you guys for holding these meetings, and it's really great to see so many people out here because this is a resource for all of us. I'm a little disappointed from your guys' standpoint, though, that just listening to your presentation, it really came across to me that us street vendors are kind of parasites. You know, some of the language that you had on there, that you're getting complaints about noise about us, you're getting complaints about us, really jamming up the thoroughways. You're getting all of these complaints about us, but I think some of that is true. But I think we also add a dimension to what is going down there. That not only are people going down there to see Seaport Village or the Maritime Museum or the Midway, but they're also going out there because of us local artists and because of what we bring to the table. A lot of our products that we're offering for donations are really very unique and that people can't get somewhere else. And I think it's important that whatever type of regulations you guys put forward, that you keep in mind that we're not the enemy, that we are a valuable asset, and that people do come out to see exactly what we have to offer and what we bring to the party as well. That all being said, I am really interested in really gauging from you folks on where you guys are taking it in reference to the First Amendment and the freedom of speech. Because I do believe, as you said, that you do have control over time, place, and manner. But I also believe that that time, place, and manner can't be in such a way that it just discourages us. Like you can't say from midnight to 1 o'clock is the only time that you can vend out there. So I'm really interested in finding out, gauging, what is it that you're thinking on the time, place, and manner, and what type of restrictions are you putting on us, a valuable part of what is going on.
Thank you very much for that. And you're, just on an editorial note from me, your point's well taken about having a variety of things down on the waterfront for people to enjoy. And I certainly didn't mean to convey anything that would say anybody's a parasite.
I think I saw a gentleman right behind me.
Thank you. I wanted to ask you, according to section 8.05, it requires an issued permit. They look like this. I have gotten them many, many years. Now you're not issuing them. If it's required to have it and you don't issue it, what do you expect us to do? Also, many things I've seen in the past with the police have been at the discretion of the officer. There's nothing in legislation, and I worked in regulations for 20 years for the state of California. We never cited without citing regulation, telling them their appeal rights, and giving them a copy. We've received none of those things. Thank you.
And that's, to your point, that's what we're trying to do, is make sure that we have, clear regulations that we can cite or, refer to. So, I appreciate that.
Sorry. One lady back here had her hand up for a while.
Hi, I'm Martha Wolf, and I've worked with entertainment since 1989 over at Balboa Park. And I find it daunting that you're taking a model of that system, because I, with the City Council, Christine Cahill, Jeffrey Toms, and I'm still working with Stephen Hill. And the system now is absolutely, I'm sorry to say, disgusting. It's 22 places. They ruined everything we did. I don't think they did it on purpose, the rangers over there. It's been that way for about 5 years. There's 100 to 125 people. It's a 3 to 4 hour sign up, and only 22 of us get to work at the park. Now, we are working in peace along with, and Stephen Hill's been wonderful over the years, but please do not use that model, because the model that was used statewide that we created has been destroyed. And then the second part, my voice is upset. You know, I lost over 60 pounds because it's been a daunting, daunting summer. And we have been harassed. This is so shocking to me because other than sometimes, most of the harbor police are very polite. Sometimes they're a little yahoo. Like one time, about 3 years ago, someone came out, 2 officers, I don't know who they are, I have their name at the time, threatened to pull my permit on a criminal that was in our system that we couldn't get any help with. He played his music so loud, the vendors, the Seaport Village people called, we called. It took 3 months to get him out of the system. And then when he did some criminal activity, he was released. But the point that I'm making is 2 officers, maybe well-meaning, maybe fair-hearted officers, came out and took a vote on whether this music that was deafening with hundreds of complaints was fair or not. And then they told me to take a vote. The man threatened my life. I called harbor police maybe 3 times in my whole life, and I was threatened with my permit to be pulled. I wrote on the back of it, they let me keep my permit. It's little things like this. One time we were asked by one of the sergeants to take down our umbrellas in the middle of August, take down all our sun coverings. When he came to me, I spoke very calmly to him. I told him it was hot. I offered him a soda. He sat with me and he changed the order. So other than little, like, you know, irritating things, most of the time the harbor police helped us. Not that we like to see you all the time down there, but this summer it was absolutely daunting. And not only did we get a breakout from, which I think I could have handled, I'm a very strong girl, but we also got the same thing over at Balboa Park. And that isn't perfect yet, but it's, and it hasn't stopped yet. So we have it from both ends. And so I formed a little organization that any street performer can belong to called the ESPA, Entertainers, Street Performers, Psychics, and Artists. And the thing is to have peace and to be able to have understanding. And this is the last part. I know I'm a little long, but I have hundreds of hours into here, a thin body. I live in my car now because I really believe in justice. And because I couldn't even work half of the time to get this done, and I had a lot of help too. But the part that really bothers me, after talking to Attorney Bennett and talking to Attorney Catalina, and talking, I'm sorry, I cannot remember the head man's name, he's a very nice man, and the women in the office are great. After hours of lost ability to make an income, it was 2 weeks after one of our own had been roughed up by the harbor police, and the harbor police was set up. But after all that work, I was sitting out there on Monday, and some young green harbor policeman came out and threatened to arrest the jeweler that had had his things confiscated. And I just got on the phone and cried, and it was really great. And the part that is the biggest point of all, the officers are coming out now. We've asked for a stand down. We've asked for self-regulation. They've been semi-decent, but they still do not understand or know basic constitutional law. And they're trying to be very fair. I love Officer Joyner. She is and she doesn't want to work with us all the time. I don't blame her. But she's one of the fairest officers we've had. But sometimes I get people out there, and I'm treated like I'm a prostitute on the corner. And I just keep my mouth shut because I don't want to have any trouble. And I'm glad they're coming to help us when we have a problem. But we are going to have meetings for peace and that we're all on the same page. Because I don't want to see your officers set up and left without knowing the things that have gone on with us, and they still don't know.
Thank you.
I'm here to represent Seaport Village. I'm the manager of Seaport Village, and I have 2 primary concerns. The first one is that we're very protective of our tenants. We've got 70-plus tenants, and these people pay a lot of money in rent, which we then turn a large amount of money, about $2 million or so, to the port in rent. So these are port tenants. These people work 365 days a year. They're every morning by 10 a.m. Or, they stay open until 9, 10, maybe 11 at night. 365 days a year. And to have people right across the boardwalk from them selling items, and they are sold. I know the whole donation thing, but these items are being sold. There's not a particular charity that these donations are going to. And I appreciate everybody else is trying to make their, ends meet and have their own businesses, but they should be in businesses. I have a hard time having it right across the street from all of my own tenants, and I'm very protective of them. I agree with trying to get the whole area more activated. We have a program within Seaport Village for entertainment and for artistic abilities and stuff like that. It's regulated though, and we have permits and we have insurance, and they have to pay a portion of their stuff so that we can also pay the port. And so my other concern with all of this is that because of the vending that happens to be right across from Seaport Village, across the boardwalk, those people there are being associated as Seaport Village. I get 1, 2, sometimes 12 calls a week of people wanting to know how they can set up a table out there to sell their Seaport Village for free. I have to tell them, no, it's the Port of San Diego, that's not us. But then I also get all the phone calls from visitors that are saying, why can't you control those people out there? These people are doing this, these people are doing that, and I can't believe, somebody's, they have their ring pinched on their finger by one of the parrots out there and it had to be cut off, and Seaport Village is liable, and so we get all of those complaints as well. So if anything's going on out there, I also would like to have notification that it is not a part of Seaport Village. Thank you.
I'm going to pop back up front and then I'll come back to it. Sir?
I don't have to introduce myself. Everybody know who I am. Balboa's a bad example. They're going to get there. Can you back that up? I want to show you. Let's get down to the nitty gritty because we all here for one reason, to find out one thing. Can you post back there so I can show you where it is? Back up the screen.
And while we're typing?
No.
You want to see the
The
presentation?
Your presentation. Because you got two things in conflicts out there. This is the rich against the poor. You know we can't go work for that quality place. Everybody knows that. So that's just another way for you guys to allocate your spaces. Because all of us out here, probably 30% of us are probably living in a car homeless, trying to make an honest living, number one. Number two, what we want to know is what ordinance you're going to go back up to and say, okay, this is selling, this is tips, this is donation. That's why we're really here. So let's talk about that because I understand what commercial merchandising is. If you see something over here and you go a couple of 1,000 feet, you see the same merchandise, you know it ain't a craft. So what you got to do is figure out, is it craft, is it talent, and so on. You got to break that up and then tell us what you're saying. Like the T-shirts, they're exempt because it's non-profit. But guy plays a guitar, he ain't going nowhere because there is a listing for vending and busting. Magicians, tarot card readers, mime, jugglers, there's a guideline there. But see, what's confusing is some people don't realize they come and they bring other stuff and they're trying to comply. So that's your job to get down a description and say, because there's no license for magicians, there's no license for singers. Well, there is if you're going to go make CDs. But far as raw talent, that's what busting's about. Now, if I do something, I do have a right to say, the law does say it's not what I want to accept, it's what they want to give. That's true. But you got to really do your homework on this, and that's why we're all here to try to figure out how you gonna stop us from getting away. Let's be for real. I'm a straight up person. Can we sell this, or can we ask a donation for it? Can we say $10? Can we say, that's what it's all about. Is it really donation, or is it, well, most people pay $20, but I'll take 10 because I really need the money. That's why we all here. We're trying to figure out what guidelines you gonna set up on us, because I know you got your undercover stings coming out there. Because I heard one lady say, well, when the cops leave, bring back $50 witness over here somewhere. So me, I do balloons. I tell them, keep it under 100 so I have to pay taxes. Ain't nobody gonna give $100 for a balloon, but it's a joke because I do comedy and magic, okay? But when you got something that's precious, that you paid a lot of money for it, it's not feasible if someone go up and give you 2 pennies for it. So now you gotta figure out, is it crafts, is it talent? That's what that's what we're all here to find out, how you're gonna approach that. That's why every one of us here to find out, that's what we're all here for. Are you gonna stop us from actually doing a balloon, or juggling, or doing jewelry? And that's the main concern. I hear it all the time. So let's put the cards on the table and let's talk about what's your guidelines for jewelry, because that's what it's a conflict with Seaport. So don't go nowhere else. Let's elaborate on that. That's why we're all here.
So to that point though, what should the guidelines be that are in question for you?
I don't want to say because I don't do jewelry, but maybe you want to ask some of the people that do jewelry, because that's the real truth. I mean,
I understood, but this is your comment time.
Right, but what I'm saying is, the people here that do jewelry, because that's why we're really here, if you want to really get down to it. So let's get some input on the people that do jewelry so they can explain why they feel they should be able to ask donations for it.
That's what's being offered to them.
Right.
We're asking for your,
Yes.
I don't want to say, because I'll speak the truth. I let them explain, because everybody thinks different. I'm worried about the magic, playing the music, which ain't too loud, because people tell me they like my music. I don't blast it, because I was told, if an officer walks up to you and you have to turn it down, it's too loud. So I've been doing this here 46 years, so they can't say my music's too loud. Can't nobody say that. You know, I've had my problems out there, because I will speak how I feel. But that's what everybody want to know. When is it selling? If they take a picture, you know the frame's $20 and they ask a donation. No, you ain't getting that for $5. That's what we're really here for. So we want to know what your input is, not what ours is, because you're the one going to make the rules and we the one got to comply with it.
And that's where we're at today.
That's why we're here.
Yeah, is tell us what, if you were writing it, what is it you would say? Yeah, along those lines. So that, I think what I was hearing you say too is clarity. Making
Right.
it clear,
Don't be
it's easy to
vague. I mean,
understand.
tell us exactly what you think.
Got it. All right.
Okay. I'm the founder of the La Jolla Festival of Arts, which is here in San Diego, and also I'm the juror and chairman of the Nuts for the Arts. For 7 years, I was with the chairman of the National Crafts Festival. And I understand your point on jury, and that's really well taken. But I feel like a grandfather because when we come to Seaport, which I love, when this happened, I've been involved in that area down there since 1973. And so the first thing was they needed artists down there because they needed to be active. And so later on in the 80s, the first club actually that helped with entertaining with artists, a lot of them died off. But it had gone back, by the time of the 80s were, in the 1990s, it had gone back to a point where they were having a lot of people coming in that were homeless and alcoholics and everything else. And what they had for entertainment was our nice tourists being harassed. So because of being that founder of the La Jolla Festival, Jim Anderson with the port asked me to come down there and put the people, part of them not here because these are too young, put the people back into that area to make it viable again.
What year was that, sir?
That's in 1987, 88, 89. We started in 1970.
That was here,
Yeah, it was down by Seaport. That used to be all that stuff you see. You know that little half circle?
that same year we were doing that, a little bit after that, we cleaned it up
Yeah.
around Balboa Park.
You remember the half circle that's in there? That little half circle used to be lawns like it's going to become again. And that half circle was put in there for artists and entertainers. But the big point is how do you jury? Under National Crafts Festival, under Freedom of Speech for Artists, there are specific guidelines of places, like I talked to all the lawyers, I had a lawyer myself for this. From New York to Chicago, I've asked a lot of these people. And it just has to be done properly. So it doesn't compete with Seaport Village, because I also demonstrated and helped get the people that were in Seaport Village back in the early 80s. So the ones you have, out there, with the drawings and everything else. So it's a big process, and you do need, the gentleman here had the exact right, but he should say what he thinks about what his particular art, how it should be juried. And everyone here, we have a gentleman here that does, he does everything by hand with jewelry and everything else that was not accepted at one time. But this person puts every single thing of that thing together, and some places, like in New York, do that, but they don't just allow bead stringing and some certain other kinds of things. This fellow has come up completely to the point of doing every single thing himself, and that is quite an accomplishment. And so this is the kinds of things that people need to know, and you have to decide whether, if it's entertainment, if it's going to be entertainment, the entertainment itself is what they're donating for us. If they make a product, you have to decide, well, is that a plus for your community? And we jury out people from La Jolla to La Quinta to Beverly Hills. You talked about places starting up. Union Street, I did the first Union Street and helped build that up in San Francisco. People like this build big communities. The gas lamp, I put together 100 and some artists with gas lamp. If you take the first show we had for the race, what's it called, the race we have here?
Red Wall Air
No,
Races?
the Cup. We had to get all the artists for the America's Cup during that time. It's people like these that help, each one of them, to make those activities. So you just need a great jury system and a quality, performance, and you're all right. Every one of you are right, but that jury is very, very important. Period. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Come back over here.
All right, first of all, I have researched this a lot myself, and I've gone through very many problems in the port of San Diego. I make roses and little animals and stuff out of palm tree leaves. I also bring my art that I paint with spray paints, which I don't paint that in the harbor, but I bring it to show people. According to the Ninth Circuit Supreme Court ruling, they have found that CDs, paintings, all kinds of things, as long as the person made it themselves, is considered part of artistic expression and free speech. Now, there are some people that, and I'm not going to point out fingers or name names or anything like that, there are some people in the harbor who obviously go and buy their stuff from some other place, and they have massive amounts of it, and they have tables of it. They hardly ever get messed with by the police, but us entertainers who are out there actually making stuff with our hands in front of people, we get picked on almost on a daily basis by some officer or another. And maybe there should be some sort of regulation in place, but according to the Constitution, artists are protected from having to have permits, they're protected from having to jump through all these different hoops and stuff, according to the Constitution. Now, other people who are out there asking for donations, who buy stuff and then resell it, they are not protected. Another thing along those lines is that in the protection of the Constitution, if you want to make a sign, you should not be restricted to a little 3x5 card that nobody can read unless they're up on it with a magnifying glass. But that's again a First Amendment thing, yet in the ordinance itself, it has stated that you can only have a little B sign about this big. Not only that, but giving suggested donations. Say it took me an hour to make a little palm guy sitting under a palm tree making a rose. Well, if I suggest that people usually give $5 to $10 for that, then I shouldn't be considered breaking any kind of laws, because first of all, I am speaking my free speech, and second of all, I'm trying to get out of what it's worth for my time being there. Third of all, with all the people who are actually selling stuff and buying it and reselling it, and they're putting a fixed price on it, like it's got to be $10 or else, you can't take it. Those people should be paying money to somebody because they're buying and reselling and they're not making any of the products. And I think that's what needs to be regulated. You shouldn't be as worried about the performers and the artists, because the more you try to regulate them, the more you're going to have constitutional rights thrown back in your face.
Thank you very
So
much.
thank you, that's a good,
Very well put,
very
man.
specific examples, and we appreciate having that. So just keeping in mind, respect of your time too, with, as we go forward is with your comments too, is we have a lot of folks to hear from, so just be aware of that.
I'm going to try to be concise. And I'm no legal expert. My understanding of the law is the minute you actually charge $1, I'm talking specifically to the entertainers, it then becomes vending. With regard to Seaport, I am a material reader at Seaport, I'm another hello. And I do understand that there are already laws and have always had laws about unfair competition. And again, I'm no legal expert. There are currently laws, unless I'm reading something wrong, because I have a high school education, so bear with me, in the existing port codes regarding vending specifically. One thing I want to make sure that all the entertainers understand right now is that we should not have to agree to limited spaces under the guise of, well, we've got problems with people selling, because if in fact they're doing that, to me that's a criminal activity or whatever, and that's a separate issue. No on Santa Monica, it's a nightmare model. I want to say they have a couple of sign-up times a day. They've made it absolute hell for everybody up there. No on the Balboa Park model. They currently make people show IDs to get the permits. I know you know what I'm talking about.